Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, depending upon which part of the world you are listening this to. Welcome to my second edition of my playlist, my series called The Journey to My First Million. And through this series, I'm going to be narrating my journey towards my first million and beyond. As I mentioned in the last video, I decided to share my learnings, my journey of entrepreneurship, so that others who are also have wishes to pursue the same journey could benefit. And also I just feel that sharing is a great way to communicate with the larger audience and get feedback, because I'm also learning along the way, and I'm learning through the process of exchanging ideas with the audience out here. Some people are offended with the idea of money. So when you mention about millions and numbers and money, it just offends their sensibilities. And the reason being, because many a times we form an unhealthy relationship with money. But if you're talking about entrepreneurship, if you're talking about setting up your own business, then one needs to have a healthy relationship towards money. Otherwise it becomes hard to succeed as an entrepreneur. And when we talk about numbers, when we talk about $1 million, we are not talking about making $1 million here, which eventually you will, but it's about being valuable or offering something of value to the world that is worth $1 million. So that means if you are offering value to the world is acknowledging that value and paying you $1 million for that. So that means it's a metric, it's a measure of your value. So when you are becoming more valuable to the world, is it a bad thing? Definitely not. Is there any other yardstick to measure this value? I don't think there is any other yardstick other than pure numbers, pure dollars, or pure euros, whichever currency you use. So yeah, so once we have a healthy relationship with money, I think things gets easier, and that's how it is. All right. So, if I'm on my journey towards my first million, how am I doing today? So, I'll be sharing the status of the revenues that I am making already. So, here it is. Day 55, revenue is zero. So, let's see how much longer it takes to make my first dollar here. And you might observe I'm a little bit chatty or happy today. And the reason being, there is a bias here, isn't it? So, if I am more happier, if I'm feeling good about myself, I'm more likely to come on camera. So, which means I'm more likely to only come on camera when I'm happy, which should not be the case, because in this journey, the journey is full of bumps. So there is ups and downs every day, and if I come only when I feel good about myself, there is an inherent bias. That means I'm not reflecting the true picture of this journey, which is something that I want to be careful of. But yes, last week there were a few bumps on the road, and I was feeling miserable about myself, and I didn't want to come on camera. But I want to avoid that from happening next time, so that you get a true picture of this journey. Excellent. And why am I excited today? I'm excited today because we finally arrived at the idea that we want to implement for our business. And you might be caught by surprise, because it is day almost the end of second month, and you must be wondering why I was not yet decided on the exact idea that I am working or building my startup on. So that's exactly what the topic is today, on how to arrive at the right idea and what is the process that goes through before you can zero in on an idea that you want to build a business upon. Now, last time in the last video, I mentioned that there are multiple ways of starting a startup. One way is wherein you know exactly what you want to offer to the world. How do you want to add value to the world? Whether it is by selling a certain product that the world needs, a service that the world needs, or could be other ways, which means you are dead sure of what you want to offer. There is a second way to get into business, which is you get into the business and then figure out what is the right product or service or whatever is your business, you figure out along the way. So I'm of the second kind. In my case, I knew what industry I'm going to be operating on, but I was not sure what problem I will be solving. And as a result, what I did was we iterated on a lot of ideas. We started on a lot of ideas, we brainstormed on a lot of ideas. It ranged from, I'm from India, so it ranged from starting something back in India, because with my bootstrap money, starting something in India would be more feasible than building something in Europe, because things could be much more cheaper to begin with if you're bootstrapping. But then, yeah, there were lots and lots of iterations. All right, so in this episode, I'm going to share with you what it takes to arrive at an idea. Now, for me, the last 2 months have been sort of a roller coaster ride. When I began in this journey, I began with an idea. I had a set idea that I would like to pursue. Obviously, you do some kind of a due diligence for that idea before you jump all in. And the reason is, every any business that you take up, you need to spend a substantial amount of your life into building that, and you want to be very sure, doubly sure, if you have picked the right opportunity to give a precious chunk of your life to that idea, to pursue that idea, right? And as a result, it's very important that you do due diligence enough where you know that you would be willing to strive for that long duration of time to solve that piece of problem, to build that product, to offer that value to the world. So I knew about the industry, and what I did was, one of the things that I usually do before I jumped into entrepreneurship, I made plans, was preparing for this day. So what I did was, I knew that this industry is huge. Prop tech is a multi-trillion dollar industry, and I wanted to build a big business, which is around $100 million company. And I felt, if I operate in a large enough market, large enough industry, then I can carve out $100 million company for myself, right? And that's exactly what I did. I understood that I need to be in PropTech. Now, what did I do? So I had no clue what to start with PropTech. Even though I had worked in the PropTech industry for the last 2 years in my previous startup where I was the head of product, I did not know what exactly was the problem that I should be looking at. So, in the hunt of that problem, I started a podcast 4 months ago, where I started talking to PropTech founders and CEOs from all over the world, brought them to my podcast, and started interviewing. I interviewed all kinds of companies who were solving different kinds of problems, in the hope that while interacting with them, I would find a sweet spot for myself that would make for a lucrative business. And it did happen. Okay, so when I started this journey, when I quit, I had formed an idea. This is what I would like to explore. And the idea was co-living spaces. Co-living was a big industry in PropTech, and lots of startups had been funded in the last few years, especially before COVID. They have been running those businesses. COVID, they had to face the brunt of COVID, and post COVID, they were again ramping up, and they were getting back into fast growth and stuff like that. So that became attractive proposition for me. So I found my co-founder, and we both rallied onto this idea, and we were about to jump into this idea, where after which better sense prevailed. And then, after talking to a few experts in the industry field, we realized that would not be the most attractive business to be in. And we learned a few dark stories about the industry, and then we stopped just before uh, we were about to put in a lot of our own personal money. I clearly remember that conversation late evening. Next day, we were about to put in our money, but we stopped rightfully. Um, so that happened. After that, we said, okay, what if not this, then what? So I had a certain idea. I do not want to give you the ideas, but let me share with you. So after we changed multiple ideas. At least we changed around 6 to 7 ideas. We were iterating, and it was getting embarrassing for me, because I would go to my co-founder and with the hope that this idea, because when you pick up idea, when you iterate a certain idea, you feel this is it, you have hit the a nail on its head, and this is exactly where you want to be in. At that moment you feel completely confident about it, unless you hit some kind of a data, you hit some kind of a market study, some kind of evidence that completely proves the hypothesis wrong. And it happened multiple times, and it was good, because with these iterations we were only getting better and narrowing our focus to the right idea, till it happened yesterday. And that's why I'm visibly excited. As I said, I'm excited because we have now come to a point where both of us are, me and my co-founder and a third one in the pipeline, are very very excited about the proposition. And that's exactly why I'm beaming today. So so while this process of changing ideas along the way was happening, I shared something on LinkedIn. Let me share that with you. It just was a reflection of my experience. So if you see here, it's a 2 by 2, not a matrix, but XY axis. On the Y axis, it is the industry where you want to operate. So there's the boundary of condition for that. This is the industry, and then it's the journey. So we are a pre-seed startup. So it's the journey. And how does the journey start? So when you begin, at every idea, when we began, me and my co-founder, we were very sure of that idea. So we said, we have a world changing idea and we want to go all in. And I also clearly remember I was attending one of the angel investors meet. I was so full of myself. I said, I have the most earth shattering idea. uh, that confidence was amazing, because I could actually impart that confidence. And later I realized that it was that confidence was based on very shallow footing or foundation. So so then you change, you then you say that, okay, sorry, I got some evidence which is making us change our plan, so we have a slight change in plan. And then you spend some more time, and then you say, oh sorry, we want to solve this problem, not the previous problem. And then you say, after a few days, you learn something new and said, we learned something new, hence this is better. And you keep changing these ideas. So it was so embarrassing for me, but later I realized that it should not be embarrassing. This is exactly how you arrive at the right idea. And you should not fill yourself with ego, saying that, oh, I have publicly announced, or I have told my early investors, first set of friends, that this is what we want to build. But given evidence that proves otherwise, you're not willing to change it. That would be foolish. Okay. So it's okay to admit that the foundations, the hypothesis that you began with, were proven wrong. And that's exactly what you do with experimenting all these hypotheses, till the point that you reach at the right idea. Otherwise, what happens is you make expensive mistakes. You go against evidence, and then you realize that you have burnt your fingers. You hurt yourself really bad. So yeah, so this is, if you see here, there is this industry boundary. And there are occasions where you actually go beyond the industry boundary, thinking that, there is a adjacent problem that we should be solving. And it happened to us also. We at, at a point of time, we actually went beyond the industry, and then we came back, better sense prevailed, and it happened a couple of times. So it's a good graphic to show how pre-seed startup, usually when they have not figured out what they want to do, they have this interesting journey, which I thought I should share with you. All right. Next is, I would also like to share with you what makes for a good idea. Okay, so let me stop share here. Yes. So I will share with you something that I use, and it comes from Y Combinator. So I told you, right? So running a business is not easy. It's any business. worth doing is hard. It's going to be taxing. It's going to squeeze every inch of your energy, your sweat and blood into it. So if that is the case, why would you want to do a small business? Because if any business is anyways going to be hard, why not go through that hardship and build a big business? Business is anyways hard, right? So whether it's a small business or big business, so you might as well run a big business. So I always, otherwise, why would you leave your well-paying job if you do not want to do something extraordinarily big, right? And that was my guiding principle. That the reason I'm into entrepreneurship is a minimum of 100 million ARR company, annual recurring revenue company, is something that I would like to build. So there is a good framework that I have often shared with others since the last couple of years, and this is how to arrive at an idea. So how do you know whether your idea is a good idea to solve? So it has got these 6 parameters. Number one, is this idea popular? That means, is the problem that you're trying to solve is a problem of lot of people? Only if it's a problem with lots of people, then you can add lots of value. As a result, you can earn lots of revenues, lots of money. Okay, so that is one. Is this problem popular, or is this a niche problem? Few people are worried, and if it is few, then it doesn't make sense to solve it for them. Number two, is this a growing problem? Are more and more people going to be having the problem in the future days to come? So is the market shrinking or is the market growing? This is also very important. So if the problem is going to grow bigger in the days to come, that's a good problem to solve. That means there is opportunity for you to grow even bigger in the coming days. Next is, how urgent is the problem? Okay, is this usually they say, right, is it a vitamin or a painkiller? If you're suffering with a disease, if it's a vitamin, that means it's not something that is urgent. You can live without it. But if you are suffering from pain, you need a painkiller that's very urgent. So what you are solving for, is this a vitamin or a painkiller? If it's painkiller, it's a good, because that means you're solving an urgent problem. Next, is the problem expensive? That means, are people willing to dish out a big chunk of their wallet to solve for this problem? Okay, if that is the case, great, because then you have better margins. Okay, smaller volume but higher cash flow and stuff like that. Next is mandatory. Do people have to solve it? Okay, is this something that especially one of the examples that comes to me is GDPR compliance. So all the startups, all the businessmen in Europe, um, around 5 years ago, 4 years ago, GDPR became a compulsory in Europe. So everybody had to be GDPR compliant. So that means it's mandatory. If you're not GDPR compliant, you're out of business. So people started hiring CEAs, legal help, just to become GDPR compliant. So if you are a business into selling GDPR compliance, that's a great business, because you are solving a mandatory problem, right? So this is the fifth one. People have to solve it. And the last one is frequent. This is also very very important, because is this problem that is recurring? Is this problem happening every once in a while? Okay, if it's a recurring problem, that means people are going to come back to you and to buy again and again the service or the product that you are selling. If it's not recurring, then it's a problem, because people would buy just once and then they would forget. Like one example, a little morbid example, funeral service. Recurring, in your lifetime, how many funerals you'd see? Okay, I mean, so not recurring. Not people don't die every month or every year in your families. Sorry about a morbid example, but that was the one that just struck to me. So yeah, so these 6 criterion is really good for you to filter out your ideas. So whenever you are looking at ideas, on which ideas that you should pursue, try to filter out, and as many check boxes you check for each of these 6 criteria, it becomes that much more powerful to pursue that idea. Your chances to succeed goes extremely high your chances to get funding in case you want money to scale goes extremely high. So it has a lot of benefits if you are following this. Excellent. With that, I want to share with you that we have hopefully arrived at the idea after close to 60 days of iteration, 60 days of planning and changing the plans and replanning. Yesterday, we came up to a point where we thought we that's the sweetest spot. It's a big problem to solve. As I said, we wanted to run a bigger foundation for a bigger future, so it checks all those boxes, and that's why we were very thrilled yesterday. So we are now going all in, building the design, building the prototype of our software, of our product, and hopefully in the next 8 weeks or so, we should be able to build our prototype. We should be able to build our MVP, so that we can go and talk to people, talk to investors. So very very excited about that. I'm gonna share that journey. Yes, you might be a little bit disappointed because I'm not sharing any details about what my business is, what the details are, but I'm gonna share it surely in the coming days. Just that at this stage, I'm not comfortable sharing anything with you as is. But in the coming episodes, I will be more comfortable when I see more light at the end of the tunnel, see that there is traction, see that there is potential for this business to raise funds and stuff like that. So, with that, thank you again. I'll be back again next episode. Hopefully, maybe the topic could be how to find a co-founder for yourself. As I told you, I found a really good co-founder, somebody much smarter than me. That's exactly what I wanted, because usually you want to work with people who are more smarter than you, because you do not want to be the smartest guy or girl in the room, right? So that is there. We are about to find a third partner, third co-founder, so to say. So that conversations are going really really well. So we have a mentor who is helping us at every stage, so that is also quite exciting. So yeah, everything is happening in the right direction. Very very pumped up, and we'll share with you more details as days proceed. See you again on episode 3.